At number 10, Karmin. For many up-and-coming performers, the idea is that you want to get yourself out in front of as many people as you can. Fame, after all, is based on talent and fan base, so if you can get as many people as possible engaging with your content, then you're golden. For many people, SNL can be a quick way to get to the top, but for others, it can ruin your career even before it really got started. This sort of happened with the music duo Karmin in February of 2012. SNL can be a great testing ground for new artists, as new audiences are able to get a feel for this new talent. In January 2012, Lana Del Rey made her debut, and though she had some negative reviews, particularly those saying that she looked lost and distant on stage, she was able to turn these reviews into the image she holds today with her almost ethereal performances. But just a month later, when Karmin took the stage, their performance wasn't strong enough to catapult their career like it did for Lana. Karmin, though now disbanded and rebranded, was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers. Eventually, they got a large following by posting their renditions of songs like Party Rock Anthem and Super Bass, and they were able to release original songs with the help of their newly signed music label. The casting director over at SNL found them and invited them to perform on the show, and so they did. They performed their songs Broken Hearted and I Told You So, and after their performance, the reviews started pouring in, and it wasn't good. They faced a lot of criticism, saying that they failed to connect with the audience, and one critic said that their performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. They were never really able to bounce back from this catastrophe of a performance, and so they eventually faded away, ending their careers. At number 9, Jenny Slate. Sometimes it takes a mistake to realize that you just aren't cut out for something. Mistakes are good for teaching us things, even though they totally suck in the moment. This was pretty much the case with comedian Jenny Slate during her brief time on SNL. Though she's pretty successful now, back in 2009 when she worked on SNL, she was still up and coming, looking to get her foot in the door. Things were starting to look up for Jenny when she landed a coveted role on SNL as a writer and performer, but things quickly took a nosedive as she messed up pretty big during her very first performance. In her first appearance as a member of the cast on the show, she was performing one of the sketches that she wrote called Biker Chit Chat, and in one of her lines she accidentally switched up her words from being PG-13 to being a little more adult. Jenny ended up committing one of the greatest SNL sins, saying the F word. She caught herself saying it but just brushed it off, pretending that no one else heard it, but unfortunately people did hear it. This mistake sort of stuck with her for a while she was working there, and though she wasn't fired for that specific reason, she did end up leaving at the end of the season. Though there was a misconception that the F-bomb was what really ended her SNL career, Jenny did say in an interview that, quote, that's not why I got fired, I just didn't belong there. I didn't do a good job. I didn't click. I had no idea how Lauren felt about me. All I know is it didn't work for me and I got fired. End quote. Her career eventually picked up, but it probably set her back a bit after being fired from SNL. Before we carry on with this cringe fest, why not leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Ashlee Simpson. After this infamous performance, Ashlee Simpson's career was never the same. Ashlee Simpson was getting her music career off the ground in the early 2000s, and in 2004 she was invited to perform a couple of songs on SNL. Like I've said before, this kind of opportunity can be a pretty big deal for some, but for others it can be detrimental. Anything can happen during a live performance, and it could be good or catastrophic. Well, Ashlee accepted the invitation to perform and geared up to perform her songs Autobiography and Pieces of Me. Her performance of Pieces of Me went off without a hitch. Actually, it was very successful and it got her audience pumped for another song. But this is where things turned sour. As the band got ready to start playing Autobiography, a track started playing, but it wasn't what people were expecting to hear. Instead of hearing an instrumental for the correct song, they were instead listening to a pre-recorded vocal track of Ashlee singing Pieces of Me. This accidental slip-up revealed to everyone that she had been lip-syncing the entire time. Ashlee then froze for a second, then started doing a really weird and awkward dance before rushing off the stage. It was absolutely mortifying and very detrimental to her career, and this incident stuck with her for years. Later on down the line, Ashlee spoke out about this incident, saying that it was partially her dad's fault that this happened, saying that he suggested that she make a backup track because she was having trouble with her voice and he didn't want her to strain it more. Now Ashlee looks back on this incident saying that it certainly sucked, but she's stronger for it, and that's definitely a positive way of looking at things. At number 7, Sinead O'Connor. Probably one of the biggest SNL controversies to date comes from the drama surrounding Sinead O'Connor, the Catholic Church, and SNL. The show had its fair share of controversies and scandals in the past, but I think few of them come close to this one that happened on October 3rd, 1992. On this episode, Sinead was asked to perform a few song from her newest album at the time, and she agreed, but there was a little fine print to accompany her appearance. She was asked to perform one of her original songs, but instead Sinead opted to sing Bob Marley's song War. The show executives thought this was a little bizarre, but they went along with it anyway because they thought that no matter what she sang, it would still be captivating. Well, it was captivating alright, but not for the reasons anyone was expecting. That night during her performance, Sinead did a very dramatic rendition of the song, even switching up some of the lyrics to change the context and meaning. It was all starting to get a little tense until Sinead blew the doors off her performance by ending it with her ripping up a photo of Pope John Paul II saying, quote, "Fight the real enemy." She did all this as a means to raise awareness about allegations against the Catholic Church because she had personal experience with those who were allegedly hurt by members of the church, and she wanted to fight against it. This stunt prompted a lot of anger towards both Sinead as well as the show. For days following her performance, NBC received thousands of angry calls condemning them for allowing something like this to happen. Other celebrities like Madonna and Joe Pesci also had some harsh words for Sinead. This stunt ruined her career after this, and no one was quick to forget this scandal. At number 6, Charles Rocket. There was a time where SNL was in big trouble. From 1980 to 1981, SNL was facing a bout of struggle and negativity following a controversial position change. Because of this position change, most of the cast left, prompting people to have to hire a brand new cast. This new cast was untested, and so for the 80 to 81 season, they were really just in the dirt. One incident made things even worse for everyone, and that was when comedian Charles Rocket dropped an F-bomb during a skit. Though SNL skits can be controversial, this is one that absolutely is a no-go with those pesky F-bombs, and so dropping one can be very bad for you and the studio. During the season's 11th episode, Charles was closing out the show, and for whatever reason, he decided to let an F-bomb fly. While doing his closing, Charles, in reference to a skit that he performed earlier in the show, said, quote, "It's the first time I've been shot in my life. I'd like to know who the F did it." End quote. If you watch the footage back, you can tell that this wasn't an accidental slip-up on Charles's part, and he actually meant to say it. This was the absolute last straw for the studio, and they fired much of the cast and crew. At number 5, Kristen Stewart. I feel like hosting SNL would be one of the most stressful jobs to have. I mean, yeah, it's good exposure, and it can probably be a lot of fun being on the show, but there's also some pretty important rules that you need to follow, and breaking one of them can be pretty bad. This happened to Kristen Stewart back in 2017 when she was hosting SNL one evening. In her opening segment, she was going off about how Donald Trump didn't like her, and she even did a mini skit with 2 of the show's cast members. All was going pretty well until the end of that little segment because she accidentally dropped an F-bomb. As we all know by now, swearing on SNL is a big no-no, and she probably didn't get into too much trouble since it was an accident, but you can certainly tell that she was embarrassed by her mistake. At number 4, Elvis Costello. Usually when someone tells you to do something, you do it. Within reason, of course. When it comes to SNL though, it is strongly advised that you follow the rules, not just for professionalism, but also because you have to follow the rules of the network. Well, Elvis Costello decided to throw all of that out the window when he went against the show's wishes and performed a song on the show that they had previously objected to. As he was one of the musical guests on the show that night, he was asked to perform the song Less Than Zero. Well, he started playing it, but just 15 seconds into the song, he stopped the music and switched gears, going on to play the song Radio Radio, a song that was thrown out before the show. He completely went against the show's wishes, and as a result of this rule breaking, he ended up getting banned from SNL. At number 3, Kanye West. Kanye West is no stranger to causing controversy. I think we all know this by now. He just can't help the fact that he's a very outspoken person. When Kanye West was on SNL back in 2018, he ended up getting booed off the stage because of the remarks that he was making about Donald Trump and his support for the former US president. He came onto the show wearing a MAGA hat, talking about how he fully supported Donald Trump, and no one was having it. Even the host for that night, Adam Driver, started booing the rapper. His whole rant wasn't aired on TV, but a good chunk of it was, part of it including Kanye saying, quote, "There's so many times I talk to like a white person about this and they say, how could you like Trump? He's racist. Well, if I was concerned about racism, I would have moved out of America a long time ago." End quote. It's safe to say that he faced a lot of backlash after that night, but at this point, that doesn't even faze Kanye anymore. At number 2, James Franco. Back in 2017, a mini stunt in a skit went wrong on SNL. James Franco was playing a part in a holiday-themed skit where he was wrapping gifts, and his character cut his finger pretty badly and it was gushing blood. As part of the bit, he put his fake bloody finger in his mouth and his mouth filled up with fake blood. When Leslie Jones entered the scene, James spat out the fake blood and a lot of it ended up going going into Leslie's mouth. It was so gross to watch, and apparently she spent the entirety of the bit trying not to gag. But this was seriously hard to see. Because of this mishap, James Franco ended up facing a little backlash, as fans said that he shouldn't have spat the blood at Leslie in the first place. And finally, at number 1, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a super successful actor, but after a scandal while hosting Saturday Night Live in 2003, his potential hosting career began and ended all in one night. When Adrien was hired to host SNL one evening, one of the tasks he was given that night was introducing the musical guest for the evening. Seems like a pretty simple enough job, but he still managed to mess it up. On the night that Adrien was hosting, the musical guest turned out to be Sean Paul, and Adrien saw this as a perfect opportunity to introduce Sean in a very interesting way, to say the least. When it came down to announcing Sean's performance, Adrien came out dressed in fake dreadlocks, sporting a Jamaican accent. His bit was called out and was seen as offensive and uncalled for, as he went off script to do this bit, which no one found funny in the slightest. Because this was such an epic and controversial fail, the actor was subsequently fired and banned from coming back on the show. He faced a lot of backlash that hurt his image for a while, but clearly he's bounced back since then.
And at number 10, Kanye West's mask. We all know that Kanye loves to stand out, and that was no different at Sunday's Super Bowl. Kanye showed up to the game with his 2 kids, Saint and North, and he decided to wear a black mask that covered his entire face. The only ventilation in the mask were multiple tiny black holes made around his eyes. During the game, he was also posting constantly to Instagram, mostly taking aim at Kim Kardashian and her new boyfriend Pete Davidson. Comedian and director Judd Apatow even gave the inside scoop on Kanye's feelings about the outfit, and apparently Kanye regretted the choice. Apatow heard Kanye and a friend talking about the ridiculous mask. Apatow's caption said, quote, "I'm sitting near Kanye. He seems very hot and sweaty in the mask. I overheard him say, man, I wish I didn't go with the mask today, but now that I'm in, I can't really bail on it." Kanye then asked a friend if he could lose the mask at halftime, but the friend said he just has to commit to the decision now. Kanye apparently added, quote, "I wish we would have cut some more vents in this thing." And at number 9, Doja Cat. This one isn't that embarrassing, but Doja Cat had some fans scratching their heads when she appeared on the Jumbotron at the Super Bowl. She was seated next to The Weeknd, and when the camera panned to the group, she decided to meme the situation in usual fashion. When the camera appeared, everyone smiled and looked towards it, other than Doja, who looked at the camera like she was afraid or something, clearly memeing the situation. Then when another camera showed a different angle, we could see her slowly raising her thumbs. She was not the only one who had a questionable appearance on the Jumbotron though. After a few more stars were shown, the camera panned to see Shaq, who did some really uncomfortable tongue movements before the camera then panned away. And at number 8, Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson is easily the celebrity with the worst track record relating to the Super Bowl, and it's no question that she's had the most embarrassing experience. In 2004, she had the honor of leading the halftime performance, but she made the mistake of inviting Justin Timberlake to perform with her. This incident was so bad, it coined the term wardrobe malfunction. While her and Timberlake were performing the song Rock Your Body, Justin reached over and ripped her shirt, exposing her bare breasts to everyone watching live. Over 540,000 complaints were filed after the incident, and CBS was even fined for allowing it to appear on TV. Following the mishap, Jackson was banned from attending the Grammys that year, and all the world could talk about was Janet Jackson, even though Timberlake completely caused the malfunction. Watching the performance back, it's clear that moment was staged. We're just not sure where exactly it went wrong. It was rumored that he was just supposed to pull back the top part and expose a red lace bra that she was wearing underneath, but obviously he ripped off too much. Jackson's career has never really recovered following the event. And at number 7, Katy Perry. Thankfully, Katy Perry did not embarrass herself by doing anything wrong, but her halftime show is not remembered for how entertaining or groundbreaking that it was, rather it's remembered because of the embarrassing left shark. Katy Perry headlined the halftime show in 2015 and put on a bright and colorful performance, as expected. When the show ended, all anyone could talk about was Perry's backup dancer, who became memed as the left shark. During the performance, Perry had 2 giant sharks behind her dancing while she sang Teenage Dream, but the left one caught everyone's attention because the shark was off cue the whole time and looked to be falling behind. That year, the shark became one of the year's top Halloween costumes. After this performance, everyone wanted to know the full story behind Left Shark, so the dancer inside the costume, Brian Goss, shared his side. He'd been dancing with Perry for 5 years beforehand, and he said that he felt the performance was up to interpretation, so he decided to play a different sort of character as the goofy shark who did not know what he was doing, and clearly he played that role perfectly. And at number 6, Coldplay. This group's halftime show was so monumental and iconic that people still talk about it to this day. But the embarrassing part is that nobody gives Coldplay any credit for their own show. It's hard not to love Coldplay, but sadly their Super Bowl halftime show was a little cringy, mostly because the band was upstaged by their surprise guests, Beyonce and Bruno Mars. I assume most of you didn't even know that Beyonce's legendary Super Bowl performance in 2016 was not actually her show, it was Coldplay's show. She just guest starred, and completely overshadowed the band during their own show. Considering many people don't remember anything about Coldplay's performance, it's clear they took the back seat. During the show, Chris Martin's performance looked more like a third wheel, not someone who was actually supposed to be there. Halfway at number 5, Christina Aguilera. Back in 2011, Christina Aguilera was responsible for a huge blunder when she sang the wrong lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner. Everyone knows that the national anthem is sang at the beginning of all sporting events, and the countries representing both sides are sang before the game starts. At the Super Bowl, this anthem is the American national anthem, and even though everyone thinks they know the national anthem, they probably didn't know it as well as they think, and are used to just mouthing along to it. So when Christina Aguilera messed it up, it was a big deal. Aguilera's powerful voice boomed throughout the stadium as expected, but she made the mistake of singing the wrong words at the wrong time. The pop star confused "Oh the ramparts we watch, we are so gallantly streaming" with "What so proudly we watched at the twilight's last gleaming." After the mishap, Aguilera addressed the blunder and said that she simply just lost her place. And at number 4, 50 Cent. During the 2022 halftime show, 50 Cent came out as a special guest performer. He sang his hit song "In the Club" in the middle of the landmark show. But the part of his performance that got everyone talking was when he hung upside down while singing a part of the song, in a bizarre and uncomfortable looking decision. This move was a reference to the music video for the song, where 50 can be seen doing upside down crutches. Since this stunt started with him upside down, the set was instantly memed, with fans assuming that 50 was hanging upside down for quite a while he waited for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre to finish up their song. Like this tweet that read, "50 Cent waiting for his part the whole time, #halftime show." And at number 3, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson opened the Super Bowl with an energetic speech to rile up the players and viewers for the big event about to take place. The nearly 2-minute speech was electric, but during it, fans could not help but notice that his fly might have been down during it. While speaking, he was wearing maroon pants, and you could faintly see white material peeking through his fly, almost like his underwear was just barely showing. Many online called it the 2022 Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction. His clothing choice had already drawn comments before people's eyes were drawn to his crotch though. He was wearing a clashing all-purple ensemble that looked like it had shrunk in the wash and was about to rip every time he started yelling. And at number 2, Kanye's Super Bowl commercial. Kanye West was not only ranting about his ex-wife during the Super Bowl, he also starred in one of the commercials for McDonald's. And I'm sure the PR team for McDonald's was not happy with how the day turned out. The commercial started with people driving up to the window to order and having no idea what they wanted, which prompted them to do the classic as they figured out what they wanted. The commercial shows countless people thinking about what to order, then at the end of the commercial, Kanye rolls up in a huge military-style tank and says, "Hey, can I get a..." until the commercial ends. Ye, who was actually at the Super Bowl with his kids that night, has proclaimed his love for McDonald's in the past. In 2018, he tweeted, quote, "McDonald's is my favorite restaurant." The commercial itself is pretty funny, but the fact that the McDonald's PR team was most likely in disarray was hilarious. And finally, number 1, Mickey Guyton. At this year's Super Bowl, there was an awkward mix-up that was not only embarrassing for the NFL, but also for the performers. Singer Mickey Guyton, who sang the national anthem, was incorrectly labeled as Jhené Aiko while she was up singing. In their defense, Jhené Aiko was singing at the event alongside Guyton, however Aiko sang "America the Beautiful" at a different time. At the time of the mix-up, both women were standing on the field of SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Immediately, NBC Sports released an apology on Twitter, which read, quote, "We incorrectly showed Mickey Guyton and misidentified her before showing Aiko's performance. We apologize to both artists for the error."
Starting off our countdown at number 10 is Steve Harvey's hosting flub. When thinking about hosting the award ceremony of a competition show, the biggest fear you might have is announcing the wrong winner. Well, just ask Steve how that goes, because that is exactly what he did when hosting the 2015 Miss Universe pageant. Even his years of experience was not enough to stop this from happening. If you missed the most cringeworthy moment in pageant history, what happened is he went to announce the winner but accidentally said the wrong person. He was just reading from a card and didn't notice it until after the whole crowd and the wrong Miss Universe was already celebrating her win.
I have to apologize.
He then had to announce to everyone that she wasn't actually the winner. He came under a lot of fire for the mistake, and people were even booing him while he was on stage trying to fix everything. They had to awkwardly remove the crown from Miss Colombia and then put it on Miss Philippines' head, and it was just so brutal to watch. Steve, of course, took full responsibility and admitted that he read the card wrong, saying he announced the first runner-up instead of like the first place winner. Why would they word it like that though? Like that is like asking for a mistake to be made. Moving on to number 9, we have Jennifer Lawrence falls down. No one wants an embarrassing moment to happen to them at one of the biggest award shows in the world, the Oscars. But Jen couldn't get out of this one, and even though it was embarrassing, she handled it like a total champ. It was at the Oscar Awards when she was called up on stage to receive the Best Actress award for her role in Silver Lining Playbook. That's a moment that every artist probably dreams about and then plans out in their head, like what they're gonna say when they win the award. She could have rehearsed winning the award as many times as she wanted, but it still wasn't enough to prevent her fall from happening. That is right, as she was walking up the stairs to the stage to get her award, she tripped and fell down. She ended up just staying on the stairs for a few moments, like just laughing to herself and covering her face, probably thinking about how she's gonna react to that. After the award, she explained what happened and said that she remembers her stylist telling her to kick and walk, meaning kick the dress out while you walk, and she got distracted and forgot. The dress tucked under her feet and she went down. It was kind of game over from there. Sliding into number 8 is the famous Chrissy Teigen meme. Now, if you ask me, becoming a meme wouldn't be all that bad. I think that really shows you made it. Well, Chrissy is the queen of memes after her face turned into one of the biggest ones in the entire world. Even without showing the picture, you probably already know which face I'm talking about because it's known as being the meme face now. No one else could laugh it off the way Chrissy did, who is always a good time when it comes to the internet and what people have to say about her. So why did she become a meme though? Well, during the 2015 Golden Globes, her husband, John Legend, was on stage performing one of his love songs that he wrote about her. Of course, the camera was on her so we could see her reaction to this performance, but it seemed to just catch her at a really bad moment. It was supposed to be this beautiful and romantic moment, but when the camera caught her, it looked like she'd smelled something like really bad and she looked absolutely disgusted. She later said that she was trying to hold back tears and that the timing of the camera was just horrible. In spot number 7 is John Travolta cannot say a name. Now, I'm no one to judge, I mispronounce names on this channel all the time. If you're a regular, then you know that. But this is a whole lot worse because this happened in front of a huge audience and the world at the 2014 Oscar Awards. He was in charge of introducing an artist performance during the show, and Idina Menzel was going to perform her iconic song, Let It Go, from the Disney movie Frozen. But when he went to announce her performance, he said a totally random name, Adele Dazeem, and it left people super confused and slightly embarrassed. More than slightly. Good news is she went on to win the Oscar for Best Original Song. He apologized to her after the show, and the two of them went on to make a joke out of it at future Oscar award shows. So it all worked out in the end. Making our way into number 6 is Nicole Kidman's clap. Hopefully we can all agree that one of the best parts of award shows is the camera capturing the reaction of the audience members throughout the show. We love to see how people react to other people winning, or how the loser in the category reacts to their loss. But sometimes these cameras capture the strangest reactions, and Nicole Kidman's is one of them. The actress started making really strange headlines after the 2017 Oscar Awards. The headlines were talking about how she looked like a seal clapping in the audience at the show. Video clips showed her in the audience next to her husband Keith Urban, and she stood up from her chair and clapped at those who were standing on stage receiving their awards. While that sounds like a normal and a very nice thing to do, she made it weird by clapping with her fingers pointed to the sides away from each other, and her hands weren't actually clapping. She was clapping like the air. This is what it looked like, no lie. Her fingers were like this, and she was clapping like this. They weren't even touching. It was so weird. Nicole later explained herself though and said it was because she was wearing a huge ring that was not hers and she didn't want to damage it. I get that's smart, but like weird. Halfway through our list, at number 5 is Rami Malek takes a tumble. Definitely an embarrassing moment for someone who has been in the Hollywood game for a while now. His role as Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody put him on the map, and he was nominated for numerous awards at the 2019 Oscar Awards. Good news is he did walk away with a few wins to his name. Bad news is he walked away with some bruises too. Both bruises on his body and probably a bruise on his ego as well, because this was embarrassing. As he made his way to the stage to collect his award, it seemed like he was in a hurry back to his seat for some reason. He was rushing off the stage and totally fell off the stage somehow, tumbling to the ground. It's one thing to fall like on the Oscar stage, like trip, and it's another to fall off of it. Why are you even walking that close to the edge? I don't know. In spot number 4, we have Mariah Carey, a little too tipsy. I totally understand why some people would want to have a few drinks to shake the nerves before going up and giving a big acceptance speech. I would probably be wasted. But Mariah might have had one too many. At the 2010 Palm Springs International Film Festival, she won the award for Breakthrough Actress for her role in the movie Precious. I'm sure she had planned to win her award graciously, but that seemed more difficult than usual because she was a bit too tipsy. You could tell she had been drinking the minute she started talking. What made matters even worse was that the director of the movie was up on stage with her when she was trying to give her speech, and he did not look very impressed. Mariah ended up addressing the fact that she was drunk during her speech and apologized, saying that it was all the splashes of champagne she had on an empty stomach. Rookie mistake. Taking over our 3rd spot is Kanye West takes the mic. I don't really think I need to even explain this one. Just by saying that, I think you already know what incident I am talking about. But just for the fun of it, and because it's my job, let's take a trip down memory lane. Back at the 2009 MTV Awards, Kanye shocked the audience when he walked up on stage and interrupted Taylor Swift's acceptance speech. Not only did he interrupt it, but he grabbed the mic from her hand and then gave his own speech instead. In his speech, he told everyone how he thinks Beyonce should have won the award for her music video, Put a Ring on It, saying that it was one of the best videos of all time. The whole audience was in complete shock, including Beyonce, who looks completely mortified throughout the entire thing. But don't worry, it was not her fault. She even made it up to Taylor by calling her up during her acceptance speech and letting Taylor finish her own speech. Beyonce was actually the one to apologize, even though she didn't do anything. Kanye never apologized, which does not surprise me. Cruising into our number 2 spot is Madonna's Big Fall. This one is a little harder to watch than the other falls we've seen on this list. This was not just a little trip and fall, it was incredibly painful to watch for a few different reasons. Not only was it incredibly embarrassing, but it also looked incredibly painful. It was at the 2015 Brit Awards when she wore a cape during her performance which tied around her neck. In her choreography, she was supposed to walk up the stairs and her dancers at the bottom were going to pull the cape off of her. But when they went to do that, the cape was tied too tight around her neck and it wouldn't come undone. So when they yanked the cape down the stairs, she came with it. It literally strangled her from behind and caused her to fly backwards down the stairs and crash to the ground. She ended up hitting her head on the ground and got whiplash from the fall. She was okay, no serious injuries, but she later admitted that she would never perform in a cape ever again. Earning our number 1 spot is Ryan Seacrest and his self-promotion. Now, a little bit of self-promotion is not a horrible thing, but there is a time and place to do it, and the Oscars probably is not that time. From one perspective, it's the perfect time since the promotion would be huge. From another perspective, it's not very classy. A little bit tacky. Ryan had no problem with it and used his hosting opportunity to his advantage. At the 2019 Oscar Awards, he was interviewing celebrities, asking them who they were wearing so they could shout out the designers. That's what they usually do. But Ryan went a bit overboard and used a lot of his screen time to plug his new suit line. It was so tacky that everyone talked about it after the show, and Twitter was filled with jokes about it. Most people who watch the red carpet shows at the Oscars want to hear about the world's biggest designers, but Ryan wanted people to know that he had a new suit line. He even went as far as telling the camera like where they could buy it from. It was cringeworthy.